The audio may include loud sounds and creepy moments. Viewer discretion is advised. If you are ready, grab a cup of tea or a warm drink, kick back, relax, pick up your art supplies, and immerse yourself in the world of Croatian folklore. They buried Jure Grando the autumn of 1656 on a cold gray afternoon. In life, he had been described as a quiet man, never a word more than necessary. But when he did, there was always a trace of cynicism in his tone, the kind that would always make others uneasy. He was not particularly liked nor understood by the villagers of Kringa, as they knew little of him besides that residing, unreadable smile. Those who lived the closest to him knew more than they let on. He was not kind to his wife, that much was certain. Some spoke of harsh words behind closed doors, of an ominous presence in the home that felt more like a weight than a companion. When he had finally succumbed to fever, some denizen whispered prayers, perhaps more out of a habit than actual respect, whilst others simply thanked God that his house would finally fall quiet. But death did not quiet Jure Grando. For only a couple of days after Father Giorgio had performed the burial, whispers of strange happenings began circulating throughout the village of Kringa. A strange shadow akin to a slender man had been standing in the fields, unmoving against the swaying rain. A villager claimed the strange dark figure was looking at him, but as he moved closer to investigate, it utterly vanished without any trace. Another villager claimed they saw something even more chilling. A man wandering the village in the dead of night. A dead sheep slung over one shoulder and a black cat on the other. And then came the knocks, always in the middle of a silent night, always three deliberate, echoing knocks on the door, then dead silence. No voice, no footsteps, nothing. And every time, within days of each knock, someone in that household would fall ill and subsequently die. At first, the villagers tried to rationalize it. Illness was not so uncommon in the colder months after all, and perhaps this autumn had simply been crueler to the village. Some blamed the bad crops, others the low temperature. If you dare to suggest that it was all just, well, a series of unfortunate coincidences, that the death of the old man had merely sparked a new chain of events, now tangled in superstition. But the knocks continued. 3 echoing knocks. And then another home draped in black. Doors were barred at night and candles burned longer. Mothers clutched their children tighter, and men who once mocked those old tales now prayed at night not to hear those darned knocks. But still, the foreseen persisted. Knock, knock, knock. Another face, pale with fever. Another shallow grave in Kringa's once silent graveyard. And another family, left without a father, or a mother, or a child. It was Father Giorgio who first spoke aloud what others had feared in whispers. Jure Grando had returned, not merely in spirit, but in body, risen, walking, a strigon. At the center of it all stood one woman who suffered more than any other, Jure's widow. In life, he had ruled their home with silent oppression, and now, in death, it seemed he had found new ways to torment her. She spoke little of it at first. Perhaps she thought it was just her mind's way of fighting through grief. But whispers around the village began to spread that her face looked sunken, her skin gone gray, and her eyes hollow. That a candle now burned on her nightstand every night until dawn. But soon she reached her breaking point. She said he came to her, but not as a ghost, nor a shadow. Instead, in the flesh. Said that she woke to his weight pressed where he once would lay next to her. That his breath stank of grave earth and rot. That perpetual smile persistent still on his face. And that, worst of all, he forced her to fulfill her marital duties against her will. She cried when she confessed, and not a soul doubted her. The priest tried to bless in the house, stood frailly in front of her door, armed with a cross in one hand and holy water in the other, muttering prayers through clenched teeth. But the knocks never stopped. One night, as the fog covered the small village, Father Giorgio had found himself face to face with the terror that haunted Kringa these last couple of weeks. He had gone out alone, rosary and wooden cross in hands, his slow, rhythmic breaths forming small clouds in the cold air. He had honestly not expected to find anything. Wishful thinking, that was. But the countless deaths in the village made him unable to get any sleep. And so, at the edge of the graveyard, half hidden by the fog, stood Jure Grando. He was unmistakable, his face pale and tight, lips curled into a stretched, unnatural smile. His eyes, not a glimmer of light in them, and his clothes hung loose, damp with grave dirt. He stood there, watching. Father Giorgio raised his crucifix with a trembling hand. "In the name of Jesus Christ," he said, his hands trembling, but his voice steady. "Stop this torment and leave the good people of Kringa alone. Tarnished Trigon, return to your grave." For a moment, they stood there, still, eyes locked onto one another. And then, Jure's smile slowly faltered. Father Giorgio swore he had seen then a slight resemblance of pain in Jure's eyes. And there it was, a silent tear running down Jure's cheek. That moment of weakness was enough. From behind the trees, a figure rushed through. Miho Radetic, a villager known for his fearlessness and steady hands. He had been out on his nightly patrol when he saw the priest and decided to follow him to make sure that nothing happened to him. With a gallant war cry, Miho lunged at the creature, driving a wooden stake through its heart. But it was of no use. The wooden stake struck Jure's chest, only to rebound with a dull thud as if hitting a stone. The creature that once was Jure Grando retreated into the mist, and a still eager to fight Miho gave chase. But the mist swallowed the creature whole. After that night, no one in Kringa dared to doubt what or who haunted their village. The priest had seen it. Miho had tried to kill it. And of course, the knocking continued. Knock, knock, knock. The air grew colder, and the nights felt longer. A deadly silence settled over Kringa, the kind that presses up against your chest like a heavy weight. It seemed that the animals could also sense it, maybe even more than the villagers. Dogs refused leaving their thresholds, chickens wouldn't roost, cows went dry, and so it continued for 16 years. 16 years of doors nailed shut past sunset. 16 years of sudden sickness in your graves. 16 years of nights full of mothers praying and fathers sitting with axes in their hands besides the bed. And then, enough was enough. On a moonless night in 1672, 16 years after Jure Grando has finally been laid to rest, 9 villagers gathered in the church. Father Giorgio, his hair grayish from what he has witnessed these past 16 years. Miho Radetic, now mayor of the village, took charge, gathered 9 of the bravest in the village to finally face the one that has tormented them for over a decade and a half. They were not soldiers, but merely farmers, craftsmen, and most importantly, fathers. Men who spent night after night in fear, now armed with crosses, torches, and wooden weapons that they've crafted in preparation for this day. They made their way through the rows of the graveyard, where the fog clung low over the headstones. At last, they reached the grave. And so they dug. The soil was hard and cold, almost as if the earth itself was telling them to stop. And then the shovel struck wood, and everyone abruptly stopped. The men gave a concerned look at each other. Miho, at the center of them all, took one last deep breath before opening the coffin. Jure Grando laid there, but he did not look dead. His body was intact, seemingly untouched by the natural flow of time. His cheeks still held their color, and his lips curved in the same familiar face with his eyes shut. Miho moved first. He raised the wooden stake high and drove it down with his whole strength. But as foreseen, it merely bounced back off Jure's chest. A sudden, muffled gasp broke the silence. And naturally, panic ignited within the group. Then Stepan Milasic, a broad-shouldered woodcutter, stepped forward with his trusty axe. He neither prayed nor uttered. And with one swift motion, he swung the axe down, severing right off Jure Grando's head from his body. What followed was a scream unlike anything heard in Kringa before or since. Thick, guttural, simply inhuman. It rose from the coffin, moving through the trees until it dissolved, echoing into the wind. As the cry faded, blood poured from the severed neck in a torrent, dark and unnatural, seeping back into the earth as if the soil itself was reclaiming the blood of his many victims. Then came the long-awaited silence, true quietness, the kind that this blasted village had not known in years. That night, for the first time in over a decade, no one heard the knocks, no one fell ill, no one died. The fog lifted by morning. Dogs ran outside again. Chickens laid their eggs, and the cows gave their milk again. Children played outside without mothers calling them back before sunset. Life began slowly but surely returning to Kringa. They buried Jure Grando once more, this time with his head placed at his feet and the grave sealed with heavy stones. The villagers never spoke of him by name again. He became that which once haunted us, he who must not be disturbed, the Strigon. And though peace returned to the village, the graveyard remained quiet in a different way now. Not peaceful, but wary. Even though the haunting creature was seemingly gone now, his memory lingered like a shadow. And some still swear that if you walk past Kringa's old graveyard on a foggy night beneath a full moon, you might still hear it in the distance. Knock, knock, knock.